Hello, hello, good people. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Make America Think Again with Shauna. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. A few housekeeping notes first. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to the channel. And then this way you can be notified when things, information, videos are posted. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're liking the episodes that you enjoy and that inform you, bring you some new information, and then also share the channel. Okay? Please share the channel, bring other folks to the channel. Down below, you got the correct spelling of my name. You have my IG information there. I'm constantly posting political content. So you might want to pop on my IG page or follow me there so you can be notified whenever I post any information. And then lastly, you have my Cash App, $ 1111 Oracle, because I be knowing and I try to keep you all abreast and ahead of things that might be coming our way. So some things that we got to talk about today. Um, yeah, so let's get into it. Let's talk about what happened in Biddeford, Maine this week. The Icy folks, they murdered yet another person. Johann Sebastian Guerrero was unalived by the Icy folks in the streets of Biddeford, Maine this week by a David Brulette. Okay. This is the second person in less than a week. Okay. The second person in less than a week, and the second person in less than a week who was wrongfully targeted. Lorenzo Salgado and Johan Guerrero, we have now found out, were both wrongfully targeted. They were not the targets that these individuals, these, I'm just going to stick with individuals, were supposed to be looking for. These barbarians were supposed to be looking for. I couldn't hold it. Sorry, couldn't hold it. So this is the second person who was wrongfully targeted in less than a week. As Lorenzo Salgado's case, I talked about last week out of Houston. He had been in the United States for 35 years, had 3 sons, had a wife, went and worked 14-hour days every day. And I just want to remind you all that when people come here and they're working this hard and they have the Social Security number, Social Security card, so they're paying into the Social Security that we all get to take advantage of, but they do not. They do not. The Medicaid or Medicare, when you get older, they do not get to take advantage of that. So Johan was murdered, unalived. I'm trying to remember on social media, in front of his wife and his 3-year-old child, who was standing out by the car and crying, both her and the wife, in her little pajamas, for her papa. We now know that she called him papa because the wife has released a video talking about her now deceased husband. His last words were, "I tried to stop the car. I was trying to stop the car." And as a matter of fact, once the car just on its own started careening into the sidewalk, because Johan was deceased, they dragged his dead body out of the car face first. They face planted him on the concrete and still put handcuffs on him. And he was already dead. He was already dead. I just cannot express to you how disgusting or disgusted I was in watching that video and learning this information. So what I want to say to you, I want to talk about 2 different things in regards to these 2 cases and others. Renee Good, Alex Preddy, the man who was here in Los Angeles. I cannot think of his name right now. His name escapes me. The individuals who were let out of the detention center in freezing cold temperatures and in different cities and had no means of getting back to wherever they lived, who died as well. I want to talk about what this is about, especially with the shootings, with Alex Preddy, with Renee Good, Lorenzo Salgado, and now Johan Guerrero. Number one, I want you to recognize that what they are trying to do right now is normalize these icy folks unaliving people in the streets by pew pew. I just got to say it. They are trying to normalize the icy folks murdering people in the streets, murdering civilians. That's what they're trying to normalize with all of us, and seeing this with all of us. They already lulled us into compliance in regards to the kidnappings. You don't see as much pushback as you did initially with the kidnappings and the snatching up off the streets. And now they have progressed to murdering. And where's the investigation for Alex Preddy? Where's the investigation for Renee Good? And we know for sure there isn't going to be an investigation for Lorenzo Salgado, because they sent him to the hospital as a John Doe. They stripped him of all of his information to the point where the family cannot even claim his body. They can't even claim his body. They can't find him. And now we have Johan Guerrero. So this is an attempt. This is an attempt, in my opinion, this is an attempt to normalize these people, the icy folks, unaliving people in the streets right in front of our faces and getting away with it with no investigations and just saying, oh, well, and lying. In both of these cases, they lied as well. They said that both of these individuals were trying to use their cars and vehicles as weapons against them. And if we didn't have all these video cameras that they are, not only they are putting up, but people put up on their homes, on their businesses, etc., and just holding on their, their phones. If we didn't have all this video evidence, they would get away with it. They would get away with all the lying. So these are two cases back to back where the icy folks not only targeted the wrong individuals, they turned around and tried to lie about how everything went down and trying to convince people that it was in their self-defense. And in Guerrero's case, they said, oh, well, we were making sure the public was protected. The public? Watch the video. Watch the videos. So all that bullshit aside, I want you to recognize what they are really trying to do right now. And they don't care who they take out. They don't care that he was a father of a young 3-year-old daughter and she would be traumatized for the rest of her life because she saw her father gunned down right in front of her. They don't care about that shit. They don't care that these sons, Lorenzo's sons, are having to search hospitals and hospital morgues for his body because his body was sent as a John Doe when he had all his credentials, all his paperwork, all his identification on him when the incident went down. They don't care. What they care about, when I say they, I'm talking about this regime. I'm talking about the Stephen Millers. I'm talking about the Tom Holmans. I'm talking about the people at the top perpetuating all this bullshit, the Heritage Foundation, the felon. They don't care because what they do care about is moving their agenda forward. That's all they care about. And at the end of the day, what is their agenda? Getting rid of, by any means necessary, understand that, Black and brown people in America. That is the ultimate agenda of the Heritage Foundation, Federalist Society, white Christian nationalist. That is their ultimate agenda. So you see one group of people, the brown folks, that they can try to send other places. That's part of the agenda. Deport, send them back to, wherever they might have originated from, trying to encourage them to self-deport. And if they don't do that, then we've got this detention center over here that we can lock you up in. But it's a little more tricky with Black folks who were born right here because the majority of Black folks were. So what do you do about the average African American in this country? What do they do? Well, if they're not an immigrant, in my opinion, I believe they have decided by any means necessary. Let's get rid of as many Black people as we can. So let's take Black women out of the game. They've got all this education, but if we are able to take away their jobs, take away that economic piece from them, and bring them down a couple of notches, then that's what we can do with the Black women. Black men, again, Black men are educated as well. The highest number of PhDs, guess what? Black men hold them. What do we do with them? What do we do with the Black folks that were born right here in America? That have all these jobs of prestige now, have all this education. What do we do with them? We get them to go out on boats with our kids. We get them to come over for sleepovers and they never return home. We get them to go to predominantly white concerts and end up hanging from trees. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? So y'all want to sit back and say, oh, well, this is not a race thing. Why are you always making it a race thing? Because it is. And the sooner y'all wake up to that, the better off we will all be. Because all you people who are racist, you need to fix that shit. You learned some horrible shit. You were conditioned to some horrible shit. You were indoctrinated into some horrible shit. And the rest of you trying to do this la 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 la, and oh, well, we all get along and live in some version of Disney that does not exist. Y'all need to wake the fuck up before you or somebody close to you is the next drowning victim, is the next victim that went off. Well, they just went off with their friends. Their friends. And also, let me say this, Black folks, y'all need to start having more conversations and differentiating to your children the difference between an associate and an actual friend. I have a lot of associates. I always have. But my friend group is very small. I would say tiny, even. Moving right along. So let's talk about this individual who unalived, who is responsible for taking the life of Johan Guerrero. Let's talk about David Brulette for a second, because let me just give you his background. Let me give you the background on David Brulette. David Brulette was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at age 12. Age 12. And the other diagnosis, according to one of David Brulette's previous wives, there was a psychologist who diagnosed him with bipolar disorder also wanted to diagnose him with borderline schizophrenia, but couldn't give that diagnosis at his tender age of 12. So whatever was permissible by the state, according to his ex-wife at that time, that's why he only received the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. He has two previous ex-wives who have come out and spoken about their suffering from abuse at the hands of David Brulette, things like him pulling a gun on them, like him throwing boiling hot water at them. They've spoken about financial, verbal, and emotional abuse, dragging his daughter down a hallway. I don't know if that was by jacket, by hair, whatever, but very abusive. At least two of his wives, it is my understanding that he is currently married, but two of his previous wives have accused him, accused because they received restraining orders. At least one of them received a restraining order, the one who's been speaking out the most. So it's been documented. Also, you can find this online. Matter of fact, you can find it on my IG page down below. You can find on my IG page the threatening messages, voice messages that he left to this ex-wife. Left to her, the threatening voice message. It's on my IG page, so you can go and listen to that for yourselves. Then he had a myriad of different jobs. So let's talk about his jobs. He was in the military. He lied to get into the military because he lied about his mental health issues, got into the military, and he was in the military from 2007 to 2015. He was medically discharged for PTSD, okay? And she did speak about him doing a tour in Afghanistan. He was also a police officer. Now, remember, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at age 12. And he's getting into all of these occupations where he is allowed to carry weapons, where it's actually necessary for him to carry a weapon. So he was a police officer. He was let go from the police department because, according to this ex-wife, because he pulled a gun on his partner, his actual partner, as a police officer. He was a fireman for a short period of time. He was released from the fire department because of erratic behavior, and he was non-compliant with authority. And then he was also a correctional officer. God knows what he only did in that position to people who were probably incarcerated. He was a correctional officer. She didn't really speak to why he was let go from that job. So that brings us to question, what is the screening process for the Icy folks? Are they doing any vetting at all? Or is this intentional? Are they intentionally seeking out individuals with the same type of background as David Brulette? The PTSD, the trauma, the mental health issues, the previous abusive behavior. Are they seeking out these individuals? Because it seems very odd to me that the government would hire somebody who was released from the military, who was kicked off the police department, who was kicked out of the fire department, who was diagnosed as early as age 12, who has family members who have talked about his erratic, abusive behavior, who had restraining orders against him, but they still hired him to work for the Icy department just last year. Do you not find that strange? What type of vetting or screening process do the Icy folks have, or is this intentional? So let me speak to everybody out there, especially my veterans. I want to speak to you for a second, because veterans, you are in a precarious situation. Right now, what the government is doing, what this regime is doing, is siphoning off money for your resources. The resources you need for rehabilitation, the resources that you need and had prior to this administration for the mental health therapy, for the trauma work that you need to do, for the physical therapy, for the physical rehabilitation. They are siphoning off money from the VA and from all the veterans programs, while simultaneously willing to pay you an absorbent amount of money if you come and work for them as in the icy department. So basically, what they are doing is exploiting your trauma, your pain, your mental health issues for their gain, for the furthering of their agenda. They're willing to pay you well for it for the time being until they're not. But you would think if they are aware of somebody who has a bio like David Bruletta, and they're going to put this individual on the street with other Americans, that this person would be a liability. But apparently they didn't think that. They hired him. He received a bonus. So, dear veterans, I want you to really look at what is happening. While they're siphoning and taking resources from you over here, they're offering you money over here to exploit your trauma, to exploit your mental health issues that they subjected you to in the first place when they sent you to Afghanistan, when they sent you to Iraq. Do you see what I'm saying? So they are abusing you for a second time. And you're thinking it's going to be okay because you're going to get paid well. But look, David Bruletta, right now, he's somewhere in hiding. The person who gunned down Alex Preddy, the person who took out Renee Good, I'm quite sure they have probably recycled these people somewhere already. I'm quite sure they have put them back on the streets already. But I need for all of us to know the two takeaways, the huge takeaways that we must be paying attention to right now, right here in this moment, with these two recent unaliving of these individuals who were doing it the right way, trying to go through the whole process. Lorenzo had been here for 35 years. 35 years he had poured into and paid into this government and this country. And he was still gunned down in cold blood in the street by this government who never accepted him. Black folks, open your eyes and pay attention to what is happening. Mothers are finding their children not only hung, but also dismembered and burned. Or they're mysteriously drowning when they were on the swim team, like, what's his name? Daniel Irving out of Dallas. But the kids come back, the white friends come back and say, we don't know what happened. He just drowned. Yes, we got rid of his clothes. Yes, we took his phone. Yes, we cleared information out of the phone. Yes, we refused to give the parents the keys back. Do y'all know that Nolan Wells' parents had to get the police to come and help him get the keys back from Nolan's so-called friends? Y'all better wake up. Right now, they are trying to normalize the unaliving of people in the streets by the icy folks. Also, at the same time, the veterans, former police officers, law enforcement of any kind, if you have suffered from some mental health issues, if you've had any type of trauma in your life, and they're seeking you out, understand this is to exploit you. It's not to help you. If they wanted to help you, they would fund the programs that you need. They would not be taking money from the programs that you need, from the therapy that you need, from the housing that you need, from the job programs that you need. but they're doing the opposite and trying to put you out there on the streets to harm other citizens. And I don't care if they're immigrant, I don't care if they're American, to harm, because we've seen both. It is to harm other citizens, and you need to be aware. All right, I'll talk to you soon.